Perello and Ken Oplinger are District 1. If you live in District 1, you'll be voting for one of those three. If you live in District 2, you'll be voting for one of these three: Carmen Ramirez, Lance Ralston, or Ty Hartley. Ambrosio Casanova did not confirm tonight. I assume he had something else to do tonight. He's also on your ballot. The reason we're doing this together also is, even though you may live in one district, they're all going to represent you. All the other districts still represent you in the city. So we wanted you to be able to hear from these candidates. And if you're interested, on Thursday night in the South Oxnard Center, we'll be doing another forum. We'll have the mayors back for round 2, the mayor candidates, and we will have candidates for districts 5 and 6 down at the south end. You also may be interested in volunteering for a candidate in a different district, or submitting, giving them funds. So we'll see how it goes tonight. It's experiment. So with that, camera people, if you're all set, we'll start in 4, 3. Good evening. Welcome to the League of Women Voters. I'm David Marin. Tonight we're having the forum for the Oxnard City Council candidates, Districts 1 and 2. We are combining these two. They represent mostly the north and west end of Oxnard. There's a map on the wall, and there's maps that were handed out earlier to the people in the audience. As a reminder, the way we take questions is from the audience. We have volunteers walking around. Just raise your hand. We have cards and pencils. We'll let you fill in as many questions as you want. We'll try to get as many as you can. If I would stop talking, we'd probably get even more in. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start with our opening statements. We're going to begin on the far left with Carrie Kreider.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for having this forum today. My name is Carrie Kreider. I'm the wife of a Gulf War veteran. I'm a mother of 2 and a foster mom of 2. My husband and I decided to raise our family in Oxnard over 20 years ago because of the beautiful harbors and beaches and amazing farms and diversity of culture and, of course, the perfect weather. The one thing that is not perfect in our city, however, is our government. The current council has grossly mismanaged and neglected our city. Our harbor has spent brown water and dead fish. Our parks and common areas are overgrown and full of weeds. And our infrastructure is still crumbling, and your voices have been ignored. Luckily, I'm here. I have the leadership skills from being a business owner and to rally the city staff and to work with the city staff, not against them. I'm a problem solver, and with a little creativity, I think we can solve a lot of our financial problems and get the city running like it should be again. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Bert Perello. For all candidates, we're using the timer up here. You have 1 minute. It'll give you a little yellow light at 30 seconds, and then I'll stop you when it hits 0. Our next candidate, Bert Perello, District 1.
Good evening. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters again, and all the residents that have shown up and taken the time to attend and find out the candidates before you. And I need to tell this, it takes a lot to be a candidate, put your name in the ring, so I commend everyone that's up here. Beginning in June of 13, when I took my council seat, I fought hard for the open, honest, and effective public decision-making by the City of Oxnard Council. I have developed a proven track record of fighting for the people's interests, not special interests, and I have the political scars to prove it. I successfully led the council's effort to claw back supplemental retirement benefit perks illegally gifted to senior executives as determined by a court of law. In 2014, I helped save millions of taxpayer dollars by casting a decisive third vote opposing an ill-advised proposed settlement to the former city manager, Mr. Sotelo, which turned out to be a very bogus lawsuit. In 2017, I spearheaded the city's adoption of a first-ever whistleblower policy in the history of the city.
Thank you, Bert. Our next candidate is Ken Oplinger.
Muy buenas tardes. Me llamo Ken Oplinger y soy el jefe de la Cámara de Comercio de Santa Barbara. I'm a resident of the shores, and like you, I love this city. The people of Oxnard find ourselves at a crossroads today. How do we move this city forward, addressing a myriad of issues with infrastructure, to staffing, to quality of life? What will it take to truly improve our financial picture, address public safety concerns, and redevelop our aging and neglected downtown core? Where will we find the visionary leadership to harness the 200,000 people in this community to work together to a common good? I'm running for City Council because I believe my 26 years of municipal government experience can help us to finally address these intractable problems. The time for crisis leadership is over. We need a council member who can ask the tough questions and bring people together. Someone who understands how cities work and can work equally well with staff, constituents, and fellow elected officials. I look forward to discussing many of these issues facing this community this evening. I thank the League, and I stand ready for your questions.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Carmen Ramirez.
Good evening, and thank you for being here. Thank you, Oxnard, for voting for me the last few elections to retain my seat. During my tenure on council, I've never missed a council meeting. I have been diligent representing you and your interests, and we have to represent all of the people of this city, the poor, the affluent, the people with many issues. It doesn't just take one council member to make things happen. You have to be able to count to 2 to 3, and that's going to even be more once there are 7 of us. I have a proven record of making difficult decisions, important decisions that saved Oxnard's future by strengthening our infrastructure, our health, and our credit worthiness. These are very important issues, and I want to continue. I seek your vote.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Lance Ralston.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to speak to the city today. My name is Lance Ralston, and I'm running for the District 2 seat on the Oxnard City Council this November. My wife Lynn and I have lived in the city for 38 years. We raised our 3 children here. Until 36 years ago, I was involved in the food service industry. I was director of training and management for a large restaurant chain. And then 36 years ago, since that time, I have been honored to serve as the founding and lead pastor at the city's 2nd largest church. I want to bring a quality of leadership to city government to match the peerless beauty of our location here on the California coast. More information about my campaign can be accessed at my website, www.ralston4oxnard.org. Fresh content is posted regularly. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Ty Hartley.
Hello, my name is Ty Hartley. Hello, my name is Ty Hartley. I'm a lifelong resident of the city. I started my family here, and as a single parent, early on in my life, I had a lot of struggle trying to gain resources through the city. I'd like to take the opportunity to find ways to generate revenue to expand services so people can use starting places, and as well as balance out some things that are just not equal throughout the city. I have a lot of responsible decision-making skills, and I hope to bring that to the city.
Thank you. We'll begin our first question. We're going to start with Bert Perello. You're up first, and there's several questions here about Fisherman's Wharf development. So what do you want to see as far as at the Fisherman's Wharf? What will you do about circulation at the Channel Islands Harbor?
Thank you for the question. What's the time that I have on each question?
You have 1 minute.
1 minute, okay. The city of Oxnard became aware of this at the beginning of June. There is an issue involved with the power company. The city of Oxnard protested the closure of the permit for NRG. I attended the meeting along with another member up here. I wish he had spoken at the meeting. I spoke for myself and the residents of Oxnard on this issue. The State Regional Water Quality Board decided to allow the facility to go away. We are currently working, and I am personally working with Mr. Zaragoza. This afternoon, we had a meeting with some other individuals from the harbor. We've reached out to Hannibeth Jackson and Monique Limon to get some help from the state. The issue is going to be most likely a long-term thing. The fix for the Fisherman's Wharf is a matter of a contract with the city of Oxnard and the county of Ventura. The county would like us to involve everything at one time. I want to get the health, safety, and welfare of that water addressed first before anything else.
Thank you. Ken, same question to you about Fisherman's Wharf development and also the circulation problem in the water.
Well, let's start with Fisherman's Wharf. I think, regardless of your position on it, what the problem is that we find ourselves in a position where, because the city and the county no longer have the relationship that they had for 50 years, we don't really get a say in what goes on there anymore. That's all going to be decided in Ventura. So one of the first things that has to happen is we've got to get that agreement back in place so that we can actually have some say in what's happening in the Fisherman's Wharf area, and basically all that county area in the south. And as far as circulation goes, we absolutely have got to find a way to solve that problem. A lot of folks who are going to be constituents of mine are having some substantial problems with it. But let's not lose sight of why we are where we are. We are there because we essentially made a decision to try and force this company to stop working, whether you like them or not. We did not go through the process of negotiating with them how the exit was going to be so that we didn't have this problem, which was in the EIRs, and we knew about it back in the 1980s. And then most importantly, that hearing that we had the other day was very interesting to go to, but they had a picture of the facility they actually had completely decommissioned it. Even if that permit was kept in place, there was no way that we were going to be able to use that pump anymore.
Thank you. We're going to jump around. Lance, you're up next. Your views on development of Fisherman's Wharf and the water problems?
It's my understanding that the city had an opportunity to see the 2 power plants which are disrupting our beautiful skyline over the coast to be dismantled at the cost of the company that runs them, and a new, more efficient power plant installed in its place that could have been negotiated to have that water circulation continue to go as it has for years, so that issue would have been taken care of. But instead the city decided to file a lawsuit against them and drove them out of town, so now they're just going to rot on the skyline. That's the issue with the brown water in the harbor. Regarding the Fisherman's Wharf, one of the problems that Oxnard has is an adversarial relationship with all of our neighbors, and I don't understand that. We should have a healthy relationship with our neighbors, and if I'm elected, one of the first things that I will do is work to restore our relationship with our neighbors. It all ends up coming down to relationships, and that needs to be resolved.
Thank you. Carrie, you're up next. Fisherman's Wharf development and the water problem.
Okay, well, Fisherman's Wharf definitely needs to be redeveloped, right? It needs help. And like Lance said, we do need to work with our relationship with the county to get something in there, get a builder in there, to entice a builder in there that will give us what we want and need. Our streets can't handle putting in the kind of traffic and the density that they want to put in there. So it's not a good fit for us. Regarding the brown water, this is something that the city should have known about for years. The harbor was built around that canal, and they knew that the Edison plant was going to be pulling water through the harbor. You can't have stagnant water. Everyone knows this. And so when they forced the NRG to go away, wouldn't give them permit to tear down that building and build a new, they lost the relationship. Those pumps could no longer work, so now we need to fix it.
Thank you. Up next, Carmen Ramirez, same question.
You know, it's misinformation that NRG was going to tear those plants down. They bullied the city and wanted us to just do what they wanted to happen at no remedy for the city. The city fought it, and they're going away. The reason that the State Water Board told them they had to close is all coastal plants that do once-through cooling had to close. That was beyond our control. We will have solutions for this. Algae blooms, while they're more common now, they are common. They do happen. There are solutions. The city's working on it. Regarding Fisherman's Wharf, I think it's very important that the residents of the area have something to say about it, and that's been the problem. It's not the relationship between the city and the county. It's a relationship between the citizens, the residents, and the county.
Thank you. Ty, we'll wrap up the same question with you. What are your views on development for Fisherman's Wharf and the problem with the circulation of water?
I'm still reading up on the issue of the circulation with water. I don't feel I have enough information. I'm sorry. I'm still reading up.
There we go.
I'm still reading up on the issue with the water.
There you go.
Still reading up on the issue with the water. I don't feel I have enough information to give an informed suggestion at this time.
And what are your views on development of the Fisherman's Wharf
On the
property?
Fisherman's Wharf, I would like to see it redeveloped. I feel it's been neglected for years. The visual overall look has completely diminished. It needs to be enhanced.
Okay, thank you. Carmen, we're going to start with you on the next question. We have a couple on housing in Oxnard. So specifically, what are your plans to address the housing situation in our city? How would you deal with affordability, predatory landlords, multiple families, any of these issues? How would you deal with that? Could you have 1 minute?
I spent more than 30 years representing tenants in this city and beyond, dealing with slumlord conditions and lack of adequate housing. I have voted for almost every single housing project that came to our city that was not sprawl. Sprawl is what kills cities. It encourages bankruptcy, and because the city has to extend its services beyond its core, neglecting existing neighborhoods. We have a problem in our city because when the foreclosure crisis happened, people were not able to keep their homes, investors came and bought them, and now we have a lot of rental homes where we used to have home ownership. I think downtown provides the opportunity for this city to have infill, proper development near our transportation hub, and to revitalize our downtown, to provide a mix of housing and retail and mixed use. And that's coming to our city, and that's in the city's plan, so stay tuned.
Thank you. Ty, same question to you. What would you do to address the housing situation in the city?
I feel we need more affordable housing options short term to help people get established. And that would start by inviting the right types of businesses into the county, or into our city, that pay a livable wage. When that's not possible, we need to be able to expand starter services to people. Recently, I came across somebody trying to get an apartment. They have to have first, last, and deposit. They can't make that. So I would like to see the city help them get that start.
Thank you. Carrie, you're up next. I'm sorry, Ken. Ken, you're up next. Your views on housing in Oxnard?
Well, we're 1 million units of housing short across the state of California, and Ventura County and Oxnard is no different. We absolutely have got to provide more housing here, and I agree with Carmen that this has got to be done in a way where we're pushing density and not sprawling out. We've got lots of places we could do that, but the downtown area is the absolute perfect place. We've concentrated on developing some other parts of the city, and we've got a great regional mall. Certainly the area around my neighborhood is gorgeous, but we have got to put more concentration and effort in the downtown area. And doing so by increasing heights, putting in housing there in a mixed-use way, not only will help address the issues downtown, but it will meet this need that we have for housing for a wide variety of people in the community. But I think we need to go beyond that. I think we need to continue to find ways that we can provide affordable housing for folks here in Oxnard, and I'm committed to do that.
Okay, thank you. Carrie, now it is your turn. What are your views? What are the proposals you would have to address the housing problems in Oxnard?
Okay, first I want to go back to the Harbor Brown Water real quick. I just want to mention to the citizens that the city was given $250,000 to put in an account just for the day when the Edison plant would shut down. And this should be available to them to install the pumps. That's what they were intended for, so they knew about this. Regarding the housing, yes, there's always a need for housing. Who doesn't want to live in a beautiful beachside community in California? But high density can be a real problem. I'm not against high density, but the problem is we have to make our roads bigger while we still can in some areas. For example, Victoria, Harbor Boulevard, we need to increase the size of those roads, or how are we going to get hundreds of thousands of cars, not hundreds of thousands, hundreds and thousands of cars up those roads in the event we have a tsunami or an earthquake or some other thing that we need to get them out for, or just to get to their daily drive. It's difficult.
Thank you. Lance, you're up next. Your views on solving the housing situation in Oxnard?
I'm going to take a little bit of a different tack with this. Government should be looked to do. Abraham Lincoln said that government should be looked to do what others can't do. I don't understand why government gets involved in telling people what they can do with their property. If landowners want to sell, I believe that they should be allowed to sell to developers, and then the city comes along and uses the guidelines for construction codes and so on, and for safety, for public safety, for roads, for infrastructure. I'm not an advocate of dense housing for the multiplicity of problems that are caused in areas of high density, where you have higher crime rates, where you have diminished quality of life. I think that we need to allow landowners to do what they want with their land. If they want to develop housing, let them develop housing. Less government, more freedom.
Thank you. We'll wrap up this question with Bert Perlow.
Can you repeat the question?
Certainly. The question of what are the solutions you would propose to the housing situation in Oxnard?
First and foremost, we need to make better negotiations when we deal with any developer bringing a project to the city of Oxnard with respect to housing. Ladies and gentlemen, housing does not pay its own way when a development comes in. It takes money from the city of Oxnard to service the housing with the infrastructure. And as past history has taught us, we have made very poor deals on behalf of the city of Oxnard with what to expect. When the discussion comes to affordable housing, everyone wants a home that they can call their own castle. But when we build homes in areas that are already heavily impacted, and people come in and they ask for bonus densities, ladies and gentlemen, that means that they can waive requirements that the city of Oxnard has. The first bonus density requirement that is waived, requested to be waived, is parking. We're putting more housing in areas with already limited parking and approving development with less than the required amount of parking. There has to be some sort of a compromise, but we have to make better deals when we sell the precious property or thing.
Thank you. We'll start the next question. Ken, you're up first this time. So we all know that the city of Oxnard has dealt with many financial issues. Some of you are new candidates, some of you are already on the council. Tell us, if you're elected or re-elected, what are the 2 or 3 steps you're going to take to put the city on firmer financial ground?
Well, there's a couple of things. First and foremost, we need to ensure that we are maximizing the ability to be able to bring revenues in where we can. And one of the areas that I think we do a poor job in is through our planning and development department. It's my contention that we go through this process of creating a general plan for the city. And if someone brings in a project that meets the goals of that for that particular parcel or meets that zoning requirement, we ought to instantly become a partner with them in making that happen. Not continue to put roadblocks in place that are dragging permits out for 2, 3, 4 years. We have builders, even in Ventura County, who have said that they will no longer work in Oxnard because they don't want to deal with this community anymore. And that's just absolutely unacceptable. So I think that part of what we need to do is to make sure that we've got those development permits that are coming through in a timely fashion and meeting the goals that we've set. Because when you get those businesses in, when you get those people in, that's going to drive more revenue to the city. It's going to help us address some of these issues. But I also have a lot of background in working with these budgets, and I am more than happy to continue to go through and find other ways that we can save.
Thank you. Bert, you're up next. Same question.
The first thing, ladies and gentlemen, when an individual is given a job, that's a responsibility. Along with the responsibility comes accountability. There's only 2 people that the council are involved in hiring or removing if need be, the city attorney and the city manager. The city manager must be held accountable for the funding. The previous city manager did not do a good job. This city manager will do a good job, or he will look for another job. And the sooner the better the council realizes this, because as just been heard, projects and developments, I'll give you an example of a mistake that comes back to haunt the city of Oxnard. There is a multi-story project, the financial tower by the Esplanade. There's a 3rd tower that's been approved. When that tower does, if they decide to move forward with it, there's no new traffic study required. There's no new anything because they've already got the permits. They simply pay the fee to keep the permit alive. You telling me since the original tower was built, there's no new traffic on that area? That kind of stuff is what's eating my city alive. And when you can't get a truth on money.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you.
Lance, you're up next. Your views about what would you take, what steps to put the city on firmer financial footing?
The city will flourish when its business community flourishes. It is inordinately difficult to do business in this city because the permitting process has become a labyrinth of complexity. I am pastor of a church. We purchased the building next door because our church has outgrown its current facility. We purchased the building next door for a new sanctuary. It has taken 2 years to get permits simply to retrofit the interior of that building. We've paid thousands of dollars. Our project kept getting delayed. We're a church already in the city, 36 years we've been here. If we're receiving this kind of treatment, and I know of some other churches in the city that are experiencing the same kind of delays, what's it like for a business that wants to come in, provide good paying jobs for our community, but they can't get through the process? I know of businesses that have withdrawn simply because they said, we don't want to deal with Oxnard. It's too much money and it's too complex. Business will lay the foundation for prosperity for our city and provide the funds through taxes.
Thank you. Carmen, you're up next, please. Your views of what you could do to put the city on firmer financial footing.
Well, this city has been abused by certain companies in the past who've taken advantage of the people and the city, and that is not happening anymore. So while I do agree that we need to increase our capacity in terms of business development permits and in our planning department, I think it's important that we not just be stomped over like we have in the past with developments and such that don't respect the people. We have tremendous opportunities in our city for revenue with restoration of Orrin Beach, our coastal resources, which have been sacrificed in the past and on behalf of industries that have left Superfund there, Halico, etc. And that's not happening anymore. I think just like the collection has brought great revenues to our city, we are going to see that in the downtown as it gets developed with mixed use, housing, and access to transportation.
Thank you. Carrie, you're up next.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What are some of the steps you would take to put the city on firmer financial footing?
So definitely we need to get in there and look at where we can cut back. We need to see where we can increase efficiency. Perfect example is the trash department. They couldn't get the increase in revenue that they wanted, so they were told, no, sorry. So the manager of the refuse decides, we've got to figure out how we can cut back, and they managed to save money. And that's perfect for the citizens. We need to figure out where we can be more efficient. We need to stop wasteful spending. The city spent $250 million on a water recycling plant that loses money for us every month. It's ridiculous. We've got to put our infrastructure in where it's going to make sense, and it's going to bring money back to us, and it's going to help us be more productive and more prosperous.
Thank you. Ty, we'll wrap up with you. What are your thoughts about solutions to put the city on firmer financial footing?
Okay, we need to be more flexible with people in smaller businesses trying to get established, making it easier to start up their process. However, holding bigger businesses accountable that come in, we pay their people a living wage to be able to survive.
Thank you. Okay, we will go on to our next question. Carmen, you're up first on this question. I'm actually going to see if we can get two in here. Carmen, your solutions to the homeless situation and traffic congestion. Share with us your thoughts.
It's hard to do that in a minute.
I figured I'm working pretty hard. I thought you guys should also.
Okay. Traffic, I think really we need to have more people doing telecommuting and using our public transportation. That isn't just up to the city, though, that we have Gold Coast Transit, which serves our community. We also have Metrolink. Lots and lots of people commute to LA and Santa Barbara using that system. We need to enhance that so people don't have to get in their cars and spend a lot of gas and waste a lot of time on the road. Homelessness. We just adopted a 5-year plan. It's not perfect. It needs a lot of work. What is going to solve homelessness is more housing. And unfortunately, a lot of the people who are homeless are families, and they are crowded up with their relatives and others, and I see this all the time. So we need to provide more access to affordable housing at all levels in the proper place without sprawl. So I could go on and on. Please go to my website, Carmen for Oxnard, and I'll explain more.
Thank you. Ty, you're up next. What are your solutions for homelessness in the city and traffic congestion?
Okay, in regards to homelessness, I think there needs a special task force that needs to be able to go out and work with people on an individual basis to identify people who need mental health services and then those who need help with job services to get them back on their feet. By working with the people that need mental health services, we need to put them in a safe environment to help get them back to a healthy mental stability.
Thanks. And traffic?
I'm sorry. I'm a little lightheaded at the moment. I'll have to pass.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Bert, you're up next. Same question to you. Your solutions for homelessness and also traffic congestion.
As the Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Ramirez, mentioned, the City of Oxnard just passed a proposal to deal with this for the few years. Our city manager has a different view. The homeless issue is one issue, but the housing issue is a separate issue. There's got to be something done to accommodate people. We cannot, and I don't believe the neighborhoods would accept homeless facilities, say a tent city in their neighborhood. But these people have to be housed somewhere if we are going to house them. The population is made up of 3 groups, basically. People that have lost their home, people that have mental issues, and people that have addiction issues. As the event took place in the mayor, I heard some of the answers there. Never for the grace of God go you or me with the mental issues. It could have been us. The addiction, that's a choice. The people that have really lost their home through whatever, no fault of their own, that's something that's got to be dealt with. And the traffic issue, I'm being told our city of Oxnard does have a fiber optic system supposed to make it better, but we need to hold developers
Thank you. I
accountable.
have to stop you there. Okay, Carrie, you're up next. What are your thoughts on homelessness and traffic?
Okay, on the homeless issue, again, I agree with the others here that, we've got multi-level issue here. But I think that the government needs to stay out of it. I think we need to encourage nonprofit organizations who is this their passion to come to our city and work with the people that are interested in getting help. People that need, like Ty said, help with job skills. And I'm sorry, pause.
We'll take a little pause here just for a moment. Thank you, everyone. We'll go ahead and continue. Carrie, I'll go ahead and give you a few seconds before we start. So just go ahead and, if you can, I'll remind you what the question was about homelessness and traffic.
Yes, so getting some nonprofits to come in and help people get job skills and the things that they need, and maybe have some grants that will help people to get into a home again or into a nice apartment. The roads, we need to increase the roads while we still can. The farms, before they're developed, we need to take a portion of that and increase Victoria Harbor. It's almost impossible to get up at Victoria if it's 7:30 in the morning going to high school.
Okay, thank you. Ken, you're up next. What solutions do you have to the homelessness situation and traffic congestion?
I'm certainly supportive of the effort to try and provide housing for homeless individuals in Oxnard, Ventura, and I appreciate the comments that were made in the mayoral forum before. I do believe that it's something that the government has to get involved in. I think it's incumbent upon it to get involved in, if for no other reason than that our small businesses downtown are having this problem now. And the answer to them can't be, we're doing nothing about it. We need to help them by helping this, getting this issue addressed and ensuring that we're providing ways for these folks to be able to find a path forward. And most importantly, I don't think that it's necessarily a job for a $150,000 police officer. I think that we can actually employ people through the police department who have skills in this area who can work with homeless downtown. As far as traffic goes, I know maybe I'm just the odd person out here, but I don't really see this traffic problem that everyone's talking about. From my perspective, we need to make sure as we grow we're addressing future issues, but I absolutely think that compared to a lot of places I've been, the traffic here is just fine. Our issue is road quality problems, and I can certainly go on and on about those.
Okay, thank you. Lance, we'll wrap up with you on this question.
1 minute to deal with traffic and homelessness. Yeah. The fact that we're dealing with homelessness as a question is proof there isn't a solution to it. There are two kinds of people that are homeless. Those that are homeless by circumstance, a divorce, a job loss. There are those that are homeless because they choose to be homeless. Their home is the street. There are plenty of volunteer organizations that the government doesn't need to be involved in helping people that are circumstantially homeless to get out of that circumstance. There are churches that would love to help with this. There's Community Action. There is the Rescue Mission. There is the Lighthouse. There is the Gabriel House. There are so many organizations that are ready to step in. And so they just need to be given the opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, many times by regulation, they're restricted from being able to do that. So let's give them the opportunity to do that. For those that are homeless by choice,
Thank you. Good. Lance, we're going to go ahead and start with you on the next question. So this is a little higher level. You've already been the mayor's one. What would be the top 2 or 3 priorities if you're elected? How would you make those things happen? And also, how would you bring residents into the decision-making process?
Excellent, excellent. So I believe that we need to restore trust in city government through openness and honesty. We need to conduct our business in the open. We are the elected representatives of the people, and so we need to conduct the business in our manner that people can look into it and be accountable to them. We need to provide a friendlier business climate so that our residents can flourish, and we can do that through the permit simplicity process, which will be one of the very first things that I want to get engaged in, which will make the issuing of permits to do business in the city much quicker. We need to do a better job of managing our resources and our services as well. One of the things that I would like to do is to find experts in different areas of city concern, gather them together in informal councils, receive their counsel and their direction, their input into the processes of our city so that we can better make decisions on the city council.
Thank you. Carmen, you're up next. What would you do as far as your top priorities if you're elected, and how would you invite residents into the decision-making process?
First of all, there's no easy answers, and you always have to work with your fellow council members to get anything done. Not one person alone does it. My emphasis would continue to be on youth intervention, so we can get our young people who are getting into trouble off that path. We're working on it. Law enforcement has to pick up the pieces after the damage is done. It needs parents, business leaders, government, and educators to all work on that. We've got a lot of work to do there. I would focus on parks. People desperately need parks in our city. We haven't had the money to we have the parks, we don't have the money to maintain it. We need public-private partnerships, and I think we're going to see some in the next term. And we have to get ready for a future recession, which we know is cyclical, it's coming. We have to save our pennies. We can't squander our resources. And we have to get ready for the coming earthquake. We know it is coming, but not when.
Thank you. Bert, same question to you. Top priorities if you're elected, and what would you do to involve residents in the decision-making process?
I'll start backward. The way to put the residents in the decision-making process, take some advice from residents, from council members from Thousand Oaks and Camarillo. Why don't we have a citizens advisory on finance, investment? People that are in the city of Oxnard have skin in the game, meaning they own a home in the city of Oxnard and are professionals in their own field. We've never reached out for that. That needs to be done. The second thing with respect to highest priority, as I said at the beginning of this evening, since I've gotten on this council and found out how bad the finances were, we need to know where we stand financially. We cannot continually make promises we can't deliver. And the city has been doing that way too long. When the city of Oxnard gets in a position that we have to borrow from Peter to pay Paul to make sure that we can keep our covenants on the bond so that we don't go into bankruptcy, you know we've got serious problems. When we find out that we've spent $16 million and it's gone somewhere and we can't really find an accounting, you know that we've got problems. To get straight answers, you need good information.
Thank you, Bert. Carrie, same question to you.
All right, Bert.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, no, Carrie's turn. Yes.
I'm just waiting to see if you're going to repeat the question.
Oh.
I didn't.
Certainly.
You
Well,
lost
no.
the question. It's okay.
No, we're talking about if you're elected, what would be your top two priorities, and what would you do to involve residents in the decision-making process?
Well, I think involving the residents in the decision-making process is a priority. The residents of the city, their vote has been ignored, and it's just a travesty. It's unconstitutional, and we need to restore that. We need to work with the citizens of the city as a representative in a representative government. It is my duty to listen to the citizens of the city. And the other priority is to get our finances in control. There's been some steps in that right direction, but we need to do some more tightening of the belt and seeing where we can bring in more revenue, which is, I believe, is through our businesses, encouraging businesses that will come and bring revenue to our city through their tax base. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Ken, we'll wrap up with you on this question. So what would be the top two priorities if you're elected? How would you achieve them? And what do you plan to do to invite residents into the decision-making process?
So my top priorities, first and foremost, core infrastructure. I'm still not convinced that we've got a clear plan for the next 10, 20 years about what we need to do to ensure repair and replacement of our core infrastructure, which is the primary responsibility of city government. So I want to make sure that that's in place, that that plan is in place going forward, and that that leads all of our budget issues. Secondly, a fully fledged economic development program. I understand why we are in the situation we're in now, but frankly, given all of the assets that Oxnard has, we ought to be the best place to develop in this area. We ought to have an economic development program that is driving growth in this area, and I want to make sure that that's in place. And third for me is making sure that we've got a council who can work together. You've heard our Mayor Pro Tem mention the same thing. I think it's extremely important that we have a council who works well together with staff and with the constituents at all times. And finally, I think there's a lot of ways that we can work with the constituents to ensure that we've got an open process, shining sunlight on things. One of those is we need to do a complete change of the way that we run our council meetings because frankly, there's a lot of time wasted.
Thank you. And we'll start with you though, Ken, for the next question.
Okay.
So here we go. Quite a few questions revolving around staffing in the city, so we'll talk about that. The Oxnard City Fire Department seems to be understaffed, underpaid. There's issues with retention. What are your thoughts about retaining the fire department? What changes would you make? And while we're talking about that, what are your views on outsourcing? It seems many departments in the city are outsourced. Don't you think we should have the staff here in-house do some of that work? So your views on the fire department, your views on using outsourcing versus in-house staff.
In addition to the core infrastructure, the other top priority for spending for me is absolutely public safety. And so ensuring that we have a full fire department that is meeting the needs of this community and that those folks feel valued and that we are paying them an amount that is comparable to what they would get in other places so we don't lose them is absolutely important. And so I think that's a primary thing we need to do. As far as outsourcing goes, no. I mean, I think that there might be places, I've mentioned, I think, to others that, for instance, if a city owns its own parking lots and it has people who are there to monitor those lots, that might be something you outsource. But in general, I'm not in favor of outsourcing. I think that there are too many important responsibilities that the city has, and we need to make sure that we, the people, are overseeing that we have a say in what those folks are doing, and not be going out and trying to find folks who are going to make a profit on the city by running those.
Thank you. Carrie, you're up next. So your thoughts about the Oxnard Fire Department? Do you feel it's understaffed? Do you think that there's ways that we could improve morale? And do you think we should be outsourcing some city functions? Or do you think that should be performed in-house?
I think as regarding outsourcing, we just have to look at what is being proposed to outsource. I think the Oxnard Fire Department is one of the best fire departments in the country, and I know that because as a foster mom, I have to be CPR certified every year, and the Red Cross tells me, Oxnard has the best response times of any fire department in the country. And I've met some of those guys, and they're really great people. They're caring, and they want to help the citizens of the city. And I think that we need to, that should be one of our priorities. The city government, any government, their priority should be the safety of the citizens. So we do need to increase our fire department. We need to increase our police department, give them the tools and the manpower that they need to make us safe and to keep us well.
Thank you. Lance, same question to you on the fire department and outsourcing.
Agree with Ken that infrastructure and public safety are our top priorities. I believe that we have the capacity here and that we're best served by having our own departments, both police and fire. I've said it before, I'm going to keep saying it because it's one of my personal mantras, that everything comes down to relationship. When there are morale problems or there's training problems, it's a relationship issue ultimately. And so as a city council member, I would make it a priority in making sure that the other city council members work collaboratively with city staff at all levels to make sure that they're well motivated, well trained, and well managed.
Thank you. And we'll go to Bert next. Or not Bert. Did I do you yet, Bert, on this one? I don't think so. Okay. All right, Bert, same question to you about the fire department. Your views about is it understaffed? Are we doing enough to maintain morale? And what are your views on outsourcing city functions versus using staff in-house?
I have to agree, we have a tremendous fire department. When I called 911, they responded to their job. They did what they're paid to do, and I appreciated it. With respect to outsourcing, we should be limiting the amount of outsourcing. Hiring consultants to do work is a mistake. We're spending money that if we don't have the people in-house to do the work, we should have people in-house. With respect to a comment that was made just a moment ago, relationships. This gets back to my initial thing. We need the best that we can have. What does that mean? You need to have the best people that you can afford to train, keep, equip. You can't want a Cadillac when all you can afford is a Ford. You can get that Cadillac and they'll take it away when they repossess it because you can't make the payments. You got to live within your budget. And when you don't know exactly what your budget is, you've got a problem. The deal about outsourcing, one thing that is often mentioned, let's outsource the water, let's outsource the sewer plant. I do not want to do that. I want somebody that's taking care of my health, safety, and welfare and everybody else up here responsible that we got a good working sewer plant and clean water.
Thank you. Carmen, we'll wrap up with you on this question.
I don't agree with outsourcing unless it's absolutely necessary. We want people dedicated to the city. A lot of times outsourcing means the city gets gouged because they get charged more than what an employee who's here full-time, dedicated to the city, would do for the city. So I don't agree with outsourcing. I think it leads to bad results. Our fire department is excellent, as is our police department. We have to take a look at our budget and see how much can we afford. I'd love to pay people more. We have to make some very hard decisions. We have made them. We voted for a new fire station in South Oxnard. Fire Station 8 is funded with basically Measure O money, and we just increased the advanced life services for our fire department to provide paramedic services. So we are working on it, but we have to take a look at our budget and see how we can make it all work without cutting other services.
Thank you. And we're going to begin this one with Lance. We're back to housing. And let's hear your thoughts on where do you stand on growth, for example, but more importantly, where do you stand on rent control? What would you do to protect people from excessive rents? So growth, excessive rents?
I'm not for government-regulated rental regulations. Let the marketplace determine rents. We need to have a plan, a master plan for the community for growth. We do need to have developers that come in, pay their fair share of infrastructure, costs to the city for development. But I'm back to what I said before. I believe that landowners should be allowed to do with their land what they choose to do with it.
Thank you. Carmen, same question to you. What's your views on growth or no growth, and what's your view on rent control?
Growth is going to happen. People are having babies. We're not going to stop that, I hope. And people are moving here. People want their children to live here, their grandchildren to live here. It's a natural thing. We have to plan for it. We have to plan for the housing in the right area and the right mix. As far as rent control, I know there's a proposition on the ballot. I haven't really taken a position on it yet. Rent control might look like an attractive solution. I do believe in local control, and that proposition is to provide the ability of cities and jurisdictions to make their own decision. That does sound good. Other cities have it, doesn't always work well. The big problem is lack of housing. If we had more housing, there wouldn't be a need for rent control, because then the market would control what is available and what isn't available. The problem we've had is with the foreclosure crisis, housing became owned by investors, and generally speaking, people could not own homes again. They were left to be rentals.
Thank you. Ken, same question to you. What are your positions on growth or no growth, and what's your position on rent control?
Well, I'm certainly supportive of ensuring that we are planning for the growth that is going to come. It will happen whether we like it or not. And I think that certainly in some areas, like bringing more jobs to us, it's a very positive thing. As far as rent control goes, no. From my perspective, the way that we deal with excessive rents is we ensure that we have an adequate supply that will help to bring, from a market perspective, rents into an appropriate level. We are not like some cities. We do have the ability, through densification of places like downtown, to be able to build the amount of housing that would help to drive that down. And I think that's the direction we go in. I am not supportive of rent control. I'm certainly not supportive of the ballot proposition 10. I think that the issue is not necessarily just giving local control. It is taking a law that frankly ought to be dealt with by our legislature and trying to come up with a one-size-fits-all approach through the proposition that I just don't agree with.
Thank you. Carrie, same question to you. What are your views on development, growth or no growth? And what's your view on rent control?
Well, like has already been said, growth is going to happen. I think we just need to be smart about it. We need to be forward thinking. We need to be visionary. We need to plan for it. We need to put the infrastructure in place so that we can have it and have it in a way that doesn't, excuse me, encumber our citizens. As far as rent control, no, I'm not for rent control. I think that we should let the market determine what the rent will be. But again, like Mr. Oppenheimer said, if we have more housing, we have these things in place, then that will control itself.
Thank you. And Bert, we'll wrap up with you on the same question.
The issue of rent control, the idea is very attractive. But the reality of the situation is if you have rent control, it doesn't create more incentive to build more housing. But if you don't have the income, people that can get a job making the income that would allow them to get the increased rent, you end up having what we have in too many areas of Oxnard. People renting out spaces on the floor. People that have purchased buildings to turn them into boarding houses. It's a fine line the city of Oxnard, the state of California. The legislator's going to have to deal with that. And as far as future growth, it's going to happen. But if our city does not look down the road more than past their nose, 10 years, 20 years down the road, what do we want our city to look like? Do we want it to be wall to wall from here to Camarillo? Do we want it to be wall to wall from here to Santa Paula? We need to decide what we want. There are very limiting factors here. Water is one of them. The water issue is not going away. And with respect to how many people you can cram in a can of sardines, I don't have the answer to that.
Thank you. Bert, we'll start with you on the next question. So, all of you are the first-time candidates ever in the city of Oxnard for districts. And Carrie, Bert, and Ken are running for District Number 1. So let's take a moment to hear about District 1. And Bert, questions are, what part of the district do you live in? Because District 1 happens to be very large, sort of stretches out from Vineyard to the Channel Islands Harbor. What part of the district do you live in? What are some of the issues you feel are important in that district? And what will you do to still be connected to the other 6 districts?
First off, the last part. No matter who sits up here, whichever councilman you are, whatever, if you want to get anything done in your area, you got to get some other council members to vote with you. So you have to pay attention to what's going on in the rest of the city. If you write a blank check and you give it to another councilman, quote, I'll support you no matter what, you are insane. You're not helping your district and you're not helping the residents. My district goes a little bit past Vineyard Avenue. It's the Southern Pacific Railroad and basically comes down Ventura Road, and it's all of the west side. One of the reasons that my district is like that, there was a lawsuit, and I was against the way the districts were formed. I'm supportive of districts, but I could not get the rest of the council to send this to the voters of the city of Oxnard. My district, the big issue right now, the one that's making the headlines, is the water issue at the harbor. The bigger issue right now is completing the levee to protect 6,000 homes. And if we don't finish the levee, we're not going to have the protection for the 6,000 homes. But how that works with the other parts of the city?
Sorry, I cut you off there, but real quick, Bert, what part of the district do you live in?
I beg your pardon, I live in the South Bank neighborhood, the furthest north area of District 1.
Okay, thank you. Carrie, we'll go to you. So District 1, what part of the district do you live in? What do you think are the issues there? And how will you stay connected with the other districts?
So I live in the Wingfield subdivision, so I live right by the airport. And I'm sorry, I just drew a blank on the question.
Right, so the question, what do you think is the biggest issue in your district? How will you stay connected?
One of the biggest issues really is the water issue, and it's a water issue across the city. The brown water in the harbor needs to be solved right away. We've got dead fish and all kinds of problems, sea lions leaving, and it isn't just my district that visits the harbor or the beaches. We all do. We all need to enjoy that. And we still need to get our wastewater system fixed. There's a lot of things that are facing the entire city. I love this city. I love the downtown area. I'm interested in seeing it be revitalized. Poor South Oxnard needs to be revitalized. We need something like the collection down there for them, so they can go shopping and people can come and enjoy their time in South Oxnard.
Thank you. Ken, same question to you. What part of the district do you live in? What do you think is the biggest issue? How will you stay connected?
Diana, Rich, and I live in the Shores, and for me, I think we've actually covered some of the core issues. Certainly Fisherman's Wharf, water quality issues, issues with Victoria. My issue with Victoria is, why did we spend all that time putting that dang median in there? We should have just put it in the lane. But here's my thought on this district election thing. I was actually not for the districts. I did submit some ideas on maps, but and I understand why the council did it, and I support the reasons from a lawsuit perspective. But I just see far too often where cities go to districts and instantly you get people who are more concerned about what happens in their district than the rest of the city, and I think that would be a crying shame for the city. And so the way that I'll stay in contact is because in my mind, what I'm doing is for all 200,000 people. I will represent the interests of the first district in the sense that if there's an issue, I'll make sure that it's brought out. But from my perspective, my job is to help everyone in the city. I am not going to look at this as just a first district issue, and I think that will help me have a broader perspective.
Thank you. We'll move on to District 2. Carmen Ramirez, please tell us what part of the district you live in. What do you believe is the biggest issue in District 2, and how will you stay connected?
I live in the woods. I live on Iwood, not too far from here. And I think the biggest issue really is the levy because I represent now all the way from just about here, 2nd Street, all the way to River Park. And the levy is, a lot of people say, well, there's no water in it, so who cares? But we know when that water comes, it comes fast and big and goes up to the freeway, practically to the underneath the freeway. So it's something we have to worry about to protect the homeowners. I also think that our District 2 has a lot of seniors who may be trying to age in place and they're not able to. We also have apartments that do seem to be neglected. We have some issues with youth violence in parts of the district, and all of these things are important. But I do agree, and I have always said, we've got to have the interests of the whole city in mind to be a good council member.
Thank you. Lance, we'll wrap up with you. What part of the district do you live in?
Right in the middle. I live right next to Orchard Park, so right in the geographic center of District 2. District 2 starts at 2nd Street in the south. It's on the west, it's Ventura Road. On the east, it's Oxnard Boulevard, and then it stretches up all the way over Highway 101 into the Collection and the River Park area. My thoughts about what the big issue for District 2 is, besides the levy, is the fact that we have one of the older, more historic areas of the city, F Street and downtown, the beautiful area down there. And then stretching up to the newest area, the most developed area of the city, the River Park area. And seeing those two very different communities, I would like to see those two mixed together and get to know each other a little bit better. The historic Oxnard and then the new Oxnard.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go on to the next question, and I'm going to start with Carmen. So this one is an environmental question, and we haven't talked about that. So in the broad sense, your views on the environment in Oxnard, that could include Parks and Rec, but specifically to this question, what are your views on continued production of oil and gas in the city?
I happen to be one of 250 elected officials in California who asked the governor just last week to halt, slow down the extraction of oil from in California and offshore. We have to do something about climate change. I was a delegate to the Global Climate Action Summit. We are facing tremendous problems here on our coastline and everywhere with pollution, destroying the health of people. Agriculture is going to decline. We have to do something about it. We each have to do our own part. I've been a leader in the city in fighting toxic industries that have come here and abused the people of the city and the land, and we have to keep doing it. There's so much more to say, can't say it in a minute, but our future, our children's future is at stake if we don't do the right thing. California's a leader, Oxnard can be a leader.
Thank you. Bert, same question to you. Your views on the environment in Oxnard and also the continued production of oil and gas in the city.
Anybody that lives in Oxnard knows that pretty much the biggest reason you live here is the climate. You're next to the coast. This is, you can't buy this anywhere else, coastal community. You have to take care of where you live. There's other ways to say that, but not for here. With respect to the oil and gas, I don't know too many people are going to leave this facility in an electric car. So we're still going to need petroleum products. But there's smart ways to get petroleum products, and there's higher risks in some of the quick and easy things. Putting anything in jeopardy, and by saying anything in jeopardy, I'm talking about your drinking water. Anything that potentially jeopardizes the limited drinking water that we will have in the future for your grandkids and those kids is insane to be rolling the dice on that right now. I do believe in jobs for the oil industry. I do believe they deserve excellent opportunities. But by the same token, we don't need to take rolling dice chances with our environment. That doesn't mean I'm against the production of petroleum, but it means there's got to be smart. You have to know when to say no.
Thank you, Bert. Lance, same question to you. The local environment and oil and gas production.
I teach world history. Climate change is something that has been a part of our history going back thousands of years. The science is still out on the nature of man-caused climate change. I know that this is a big debate, but the science does not indicate that human production of fossil fuels has caused climate change. So I'm for the oil and gas industry. These people have jobs. They need to be able to live as well. And while I am for the development of alternative sources of energy, with Bert, I don't believe that we're going to see a dramatic change in transportation to electric cars. We're going to need to continue to provide for the needs of and the internal combustion engine.
Thank you. Ken, same question to you. The views on the environment in Oxnard and oil and gas specifically.
Climate change is real. It's a scientifically proven fact. Stipulated. I think the most important part of this, though, is what are we going to do going forward to address this? Because frankly, of the 5 people up here, it's my house that's going to get the water first as the sea level rise. And I think it's extremely important that we continue the process that we are on to find ways that we can address things both in mobile sources and in other ways that we're using petroleum products. And so I think anything we can do to continue that process, I'm very much in support of. From an environmental perspective, though, I think what's even broader is the environment here in Oxnard. And what are we doing to ensure that we have to create that 21st century city that I want, and I know that most of you want? What are we doing to try and ensure that we've got the open spaces across the city so that people actually can enjoy this great place that we live? Because there are too many places, including in South Oxnard, that don't have some of the opportunities that I have in my neighborhood. And we need to make sure that everyone in Oxnard has those open spaces, those places they can get out and enjoy this community just like everybody else.
Thank you. We'll wrap up with you, Carrie.
Okay, of course, we're all in favor of a clean, healthy, beautiful environment. We want to keep the environment clean and favorable to our community and to the world. The problem is that you can't just unilaterally say this industry is destroying the environment or this entity is destroying the environment and then go to fix that without looking at the future. So for example, the energy plant, the 2 power plants on our beaches, Ormond Beach and Mandalay Shores, they're sitting there rusting away when the city council had the opportunity to work with energy to have them remove those plants. Now they're resting there and we've got problems in our harbor because that plant is not working. Yes, the Coastal said they had to shut down by 2020, but we still had a few years to work with them. So the thing is you can't just unilaterally say, let's get rid of this evil industry because you're inadvertently causing other problems. You have to do it smart.
Thank you. Ken, we'll start with you on the next question. The question is about the gang injunction, gangs and crime. So we'll just give you a minute to talk about your view about crime in Oxnard, including gangs.
Well, there are certainly parts of this community where crime is a substantial problem. And from my perspective, if the police department, the professionals that we have who are dealing with public safety in our community tell us that they need the gang injunction, then I support it. And if they say that we need to make some amendments to it in order to be able to use it in a way that's going to meet constitutional muster but ensure that it is meeting the needs we have, then I will support those changes. What you will find with me is I am not one who believes that I have all the answers, and I'm not one who believes that I'm supposed to run the entire dang city. We have professionals at the police department who we have hired in there to do their job, and I want to make sure they have all the tools that they need. And so if that's what we need to do in order to address those issues, I'm supportive of it. I think beyond that, though, there are certain things we can do to help those who are looking for ways out of gangs. And I think it is incumbent upon the city, frankly, just because over the long term, we're going to save money by seeing what we can do to try and help them out from that. And I think looking at programs that we can use, some that are already in place in Oxnard, some that we can bring to the community, are things that I would all be supportive of.
Thank you. Carrie, same question to you. Your views on crime in Oxnard and gangs.
Well, I think that we do need to give our police the tools that they need to combat any crime that's happening, especially with gangs. You know, some of the problems is that they identify some of these people and then they put them on the gang injunction. They have no way of getting off. I know the gang injunctions are temporarily stopped, but I'm for it if there's a way for someone to get off to prove that they're not a member of a gang anymore, that they've changed their life. I'm also for programs that we can put in place to help families, help parents keep their kids from being involved in gangs in the first place. There is some issues where the police officers, and speaking with them, they told me, said, well, a lot of these people, you know, are not here legally, and they're afraid to do anything with their children because they don't want to get thrown out of the country. And so we need to work with those families so that they can help their children.
Thank you. Carmen, same question to you. Your views on combating crime in Oxnard.
Actually, Oxnard is a safer city than probably most of the other cities in the county. We should get our facts straight, and our chief of police has come to council and made that presentation. Crime is in every big city, and we're a big city. Our crime is generally located in a population of young men who hurt each other, and not random. So that is something we have to address. I believe every child has a dream, and that dream isn't to be in a gang, or get murdered, or hurt somebody, or go to jail. And we have to find a way to make their dreams come true instead of forcing them into very unsatisfactory lifestyles. We can be a safer city. We've got a great program here called City Corps. It's helping. It'd be great to expand it. The gang injunction is a tool in the toolbox. Our police department has decided to take another look to see if it really is effective and can be improved or paused.
Thank you. Bert, same question to you. How would you fight crime in Oxnard?
I appreciate the answers that the other candidates have given. I'd like to add on, Mayor Pro Tem has mentioned, every parent has a dream. Any parent worth a damn hopes for something good for their kid. Maybe these parents need some assistance, but at the same time, when there's gangs in the city and they're creating violence, that has to be dealt with. But ladies and gentlemen, our police chief, Mr. Scott Whitney, has told us more people die in the city from opioid overdoses than homicides. More people die from car wrecks than homicides. The city of Oxnard, as I've mentioned it from the very beginning, we have a limited amount of resources. The resources that we have to be allocated. Where do you want to allocate the resources? The opioid deaths? You want to go for the homicides? You want to go for the auto accidents? You want to go for the gangs? And the reason you have to do that, we have a limited amount of funds. All the property tax generated that comes to this city, plus $1 million from the general fund, supports the police department. All the sales tax, plus $1 million from the general fund, supports fire. You want to take more money? Where are you going to take it from?
Thank you, Bert. And Lance, we'll wrap up the same question with you. What are your views on fighting crime in Oxnard?
I attended the session when Officer Sonstergaard did the presentation about the gang injunction. The community responded. There are certain issues with the gang injunction that need to be looked at specifically. Once somebody gets on the list on how they can get off, right now it's inordinately difficult as it was written. That needs to be looked at, and it needs to be easier for somebody to be able to get off the list. But if the law enforcement, our police department says that it's a valuable tool, then it's something that we need to support. I also believe that one of the ways that we can help with the crime rate is to deal with this issue when people are younger. If we can strengthen the family and the values of the home and loyalty and hard work and education, I think will go a long way in dealing with the gang issue in our community.
Thank you. Carmen, we'll start with you. And the question is about downtown and Main Street. Do you think our Main Street and downtown is healthy, successful? I guess what I want to have you answer is, what are your views about downtown and making it more vibrant in Oxnard? And do you think it's healthy now?
I'm very excited about the potential for downtown to become a thriving economic base where people can live, can work, can be entertained, have restaurants. It's coming. It is coming. Oxnard is uniquely placed to do this. Great weather. We have our transportation hub, train station across the way, and a lot of places we can do infill and rebuild and repurpose. We have some of the most important buildings in our city, our downtown. Bank of LWV building, Oxnard Post Office. We have a direct line to the Performing Arts Center and to the fantastic historic district, which had a tour this weekend. Check it out if you haven't done it before. This is the opportunity for Oxnard. Better housing, better economy, and a thriving community. So I have a lot of hopes for it. There are plans in progress. We did a charrette a few years ago. All the vision came through and it's being worked on now.
Thank you. Ken, same question to you. What are your views about downtown, how to make it more vibrant?
I think it's a crying shame that downtown Oxnard has gotten to the place that it has. And it is absolutely incumbent upon this community to do everything we can to try and ensure that we have a strong downtown area that is the core of this community. Three things. First of all, with the new governor coming in, I think it is incumbent upon all of us to lobby to try and get redevelopment programs put back in place so that we can use redevelopment as a tool to address downtown issues. Two, we absolutely have got to drive density and put mixed use housing downtown, because putting people down there living there will put more folks down spending money that will help the retailers that are in the downtown area. And three, I think we need to take a look at the business improvement district that's there. I got a chance to spend about 3 hours downtown with a bunch of small business retailers a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that they have some concerns about is, where is that BID money going? Is it really being spent on the things that are going to help ensure that we've got a strong, viable downtown? I want to work with them to make that happen.
Thank you. Bert, same question to you. What are your views about improving downtown?
The question was originally asked, the potential for downtown. The potential for downtown is tremendous. What do I think about it right now? It needs a long way to go. The candidate had mentioned the downtown owners. There's a $6 million settlement. When we can't get the owners to agree how they want to spend the money, it gives you an indication of how bad the agreements are in the decision making, because they want us to give a final okay how to spend the money. This gets back to smart development. You've got to have somebody that knows what the heck they are doing when we bring in a developer to give us something, because we cannot buy pie in the sky. Being in Oxnard since 1958, seeing what has happened in downtown, the numerous times it's been redeveloped, and each time it happens, we approve, our city fathers have approved new development shopping centers outside, continually gutting everything that had been done to try to improve downtown. We cannot keep doing that. That takes long-range planning, and I believe the city manager has some ideas.
Stop you there. Carrie, same question to you. What are your views about downtown, Main Street, downtown, keeping it vibrant, successful?
Well, I think downtown's a great area. There's a lot of historic buildings there. There's some great businesses there. We need to stop nickel and diming them to death on their permits, for one, and them have different rules in every other city or every other area in the city. I would like to encourage some developers to come in and work on the area. We need to increase foot traffic in that area. If we can increase foot traffic and people that are going to visit and walk through that area on a regular basis, then the businesses will thrive and it will bring industry to our city, or revenue to our city. There's just a lot of potential. Regarding the $6 million, we need to encourage the business owners there to come to an agreement, or we need to divvy up the amount and let them make proposals of what they want to do to their businesses or to their area, and then either approve it or disapprove it.
Thank you. Lance, we'll wrap up with you on this question about downtown.
There have been plans to redevelop downtown for years and years and years. We keep hearing about them, but we just keep hearing about them. Let's find a similar area in another city that has had a successful redevelopment plan. Let's take a look at what they've done. Let's talk to their people, and let's make a plan going forward to duplicate what they have done.
Thank you. We're going to start our closing statements in just a moment, but before that, how about a round of applause for these terrific candidates? I'd also like to take a moment again to acknowledge all of the volunteers for the League of Women Voters: Betsy, Doris, Cheryl, Suki, Pat, Carol, Krista, Kendall, Mulaney, Pat, myself. Thank you all for allowing us to do that. And candidates, I want to say that the questions tonight were all very informed, intelligent, thoughtful questions. How about a round of applause for our audience? And one last reminder, the city clerk has prepared brochures. There's 2 out there to show you if you live in District 1 or District 2. You can look at it, take both if there's still some. Also on the back, it shows you a sample of the ballot so you can know what order and who you would be voting for. So with that, I would like to start our closing statements. We'll begin with Lance Ralston.
All right, well, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for the invitation to be here tonight. It's been a real honor to be a part of this panel. Having a voice in governance by voting for men and women to represent us in office at whatever level is a great privilege, and quite frankly, it's a historic rarity. I encourage everyone to register, research the candidates and the propositions, and get to the polls this November. I'd be greatly honored to represent the people of District 2 on the City Council. Let's restore trust to city government through openness and honesty. Let's provide a friendlier business climate so our residents can flourish. Let's do a better job of managing our resources and our services. For more information about my campaign, www.ralston4, Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Carmen Ramirez.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and I do want to thank everybody who's listening here and on television and the computer. I've had the privilege of representing people of this city for 8 years now. I want to continue. We've had some very difficult times. We have made the right choices, and we are on the road to recovery here. I have a proven record of making difficult decisions that have been for the future of our city and for your family's welfare. I have voted for enhanced police and fire services. I voted for $30 million to improve our streets and roads, and we have improved our infrastructure, our credit worthiness. Believe me, there are no easy answers here, and we all have to work together, including the community, to make things happen. There's more things I could say about our advanced water purification facility, which is not a waste. It is going to be our future. We're going to have that water. So many things to say. Please go to my website.
Thank you. And as a reminder, candidates Carmen Ramirez, Lance Ralston, and Ty Hartley are running in District 2. We'll now move on to our District 1 candidates. We'll begin with Ken Opplinger.
Thanks again to the League for hosting us tonight, and to all of you for joining us. To paraphrase one of my favorite movies, we have serious problems in this community, and we need serious people to address them. Whether it's water quality at the marina, a long-term plan for the repair and replacement of core infrastructure, or how to ensure that we maintain a strong, capable, and professional city staff, it's time to stop looking for quick fixes and interim measures, and to start creating a vision for what we want Oxnard to be. We are now the largest city between LA and San Jose, and it's time we had leadership that acknowledges this and can help harness it to accomplish great things. There are 2 weeks left until ballots get mailed out, and just 43 days until the election. Not much time. Please take a moment to learn more about me at my website, and I'll continue the theme, ken4oxnard.com. I think we all sort of did that. And please feel free to call me or email me anytime. I want to meet with each of you. I want to ask you for your vote. And I want to talk about how we together can create the vision of Oxnard that we can share and work on. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate for District 1 is Bert Perello.
Again, thank you very much for the League of Women Voters, and I'd like to thank the candidates that have put their hat in the ring. It takes a lot to do that. On November 6th, for the first time in the city of Oxnard's history, Oxnard's registered voters will be able to choose council districts representatives. I have worked hard to represent the residents of Oxnard and now District 1 on this Oxnard Council. I've lent my backhands and good offices to support the numerous neighborhood cleanups. I've been working to Marshall County state resources funding needed to tackle the emergent water quality degradation issues at the Channel Islands Harbor, and working closely with the Watershed Protection District, lobbying hard for state and federal funding required to construct certifiable levees that will protect Oxnard residents from flooding. When it comes to issues of public health, safety, and welfare, I want District 1 residents to know that they have a strong champion on the City of Oxnard Council. On Tuesday, November 6th, please vote Bert Perello, number 3 on your ballot. My website, again, number 4, Perello for Performance 2018. Thank you for attending this meeting.
Thank you. Our next candidate for District 1 is Carrie Kreider.
Thank you for being here tonight. It's a privilege to be here with you. You can find more about me on Facebook, Carrie Kreider, and coming soon, carriekreider.com. I want to be someone that will listen to you. Please communicate with me on those forums on Facebook. You need someone who will represent you. This is what we're supposed to be doing, is representing the people, your voice. You also need someone who can manage and oversee management staff and someone who can rally the troops, as it were. Someone who's not kept in the dark. And ask my kids, they will tell you I know every detail of what's going on. I make it my job to know what's happening. And that's something that we need to do with a city this large and with all the different events and programs and projects that are going on. We need to be detail oriented and make sure that we are the oversight that you expect us to be, that you expect me to be, and I will do that for you. Thank you.
Thank you. So as a reminder that this will be available on the city's website, also KADY-TV and the Tornado's website as well, I believe. One other thing, on your way out, you'll see a membership table for the League of Women Voters. We have voter registration cards there. You can find out anything about becoming a member of the League. We even have a donation jar. If you actually enjoyed tonight, feel free to throw in a little bit. So with that, how about...
Mr. Barron, can I just express
I really can't let you...
common concern for Ms. Hartley, who had to leave.
Understood. Thank you. As a reminder, Ambrosio Casanova is also a candidate in District 1 as well. So with that, thank you all for coming tonight, and we will be doing the next forum in Oxnard on Thursday at the South Oxnard Center. Thank you.